Thank you for joining us, everyone. Welcome to Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation's Day event. What is the Advance Child Tax Credit? My name is Ivan Valadares. Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation, or Brooklyn A for short, has been providing high quality, free legal services for over 50 years. We have 3 programs and offer services throughout New York City. Under our affordable housing program, we represent tenants facing eviction and tenant associations whose landlords are violating fair housing laws. Under our consumer economic advocacy program, we represent small businesses and community-based organizations and provide commercial lease assistance. Under our consumer economic advocacy program, Brooklyn A uses civil legal remedies such as complex litigation, as well as non-legal advocacy to protect equity, the equity of low and moderate income families. The program prevents foreclosures and defends against predatory lending, as well as assists low-income households who have federal and New York State tax controversies. What makes Brooklyn A unique is our ability to uphold justice through high-quality legal services and advocacy at the neighborhood level. Our direct legal services to our clients help prevent displacement, and you can read all about our services at www.bka.org. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Kelly Lai, a staff attorney with Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A. And I'm going to share the presentation as well.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And again, my name is Kelly Lai, and I'm a staff attorney, and specifically I work in the Consumer Economic Advocacy Program here at BKA. Next slide, please. So the Consumer Economic Advocacy Program, we actually work at a few different areas. One is individuals who are facing foreclosures or in bankruptcy, and we also have a low-income taxpayer clinic. And in the clinic, we assist low-income and moderate-income individuals in New York City with federal and New York State personal income consequences. So we provide legal advice, assistance, representation in areas such as audit and examination, collections, earned income tax credit, liens and levies, innocent spouse claims, identity theft, and U.S. tax court proceedings. Next. So tonight, I'll be going over the Advance Child Tax Credit. And just to give a background, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, this was enacted in March by President Biden, and it provided several economic relief measures, such as the third stimulus checks that some of you may have received, and the expansion of the child tax credit. And this was enacted because of COVID, and it was to help families who are facing difficulties financially. So we're going to go over the Advanced Child Tax Credit specifically and what it means for you and your family. And next slide. So what exactly is a tax credit? So a tax credit is an amount of money that taxpayers are permitted to subtract dollar for dollar from the income taxes that they may owe. So this is usually more favorable than tax deductions because they actually reduce the amount of taxes you owe and not just the amount of taxable income. And the basic types of tax credits include non-refundable, refundable, or partially refundable. So a non-refundable tax credit can reduce your taxes to 0, but it does not give you a refund. On the other hand, a refundable credit, not only does it reduce your taxes to 0, but it also gives you a refund. And next, please. So specifically the child tax credit, it is a benefit granted to taxpayers for those with qualifying dependent children. and it decreases your tax liability on a dollar for dollar basis. So before 2021, or before the act was enacted by President Biden, the credit is only partially refundable. So the 2021 Advance Child Tax Credit has introduced a few changes that expanded the scope and the amount of the child tax credit. So the most notable difference is that the amount is now going to be partially paid out in advance before you even file your 2021 tax return. So the first half will be in the form of monthly payments starting in July. So since it's already October 19th, actually 4 payments have been sent out already. And the second part, or the second amount of the advanced child tax credit, is going to be paid out in lump sum when you do file for your 2021 tax returns. So another change, the CTC now covers up to the age of 17. Previously, it was only for those ages 0 to 16. So the advanced child tax credit has increased the ages by 1 year. And the amount of CTC has also increased from $2,000 now to $3,600 for those under the ages of 6 or ages 0 to 5, and $3,000 for those aging from 6 to 17. And another thing is that it is fully refundable instead of only partially refundable. So in the past, there was a $1,400 cap on the refundable part of the CTC. So right now, even if you do not owe any taxes, you can still take advantage of the credit and receive the full amount that you're entitled to. Next slide, please. So here's just a schedule of what the payments are looking like if you do have the full amount that you are entitled to. If you are entitled to this child tax credit, you can receive it either by mail or direct deposit. You also have the option of opting out of these payments altogether. Instead, you can receive it next year when you file your tax returns. So one reason that people may do that is they might expect that they owe taxes and they want to use that credit to offset that liability. So that's one reason that people might want to opt out of the child tax credit. Next, please. So next I'll be going over who qualifies for the advanced child tax credit. So to be eligible, the taxpayer or at least one of the spouses, if you're married filing jointly, must have resided in the US for more than half of the year and have to have at least one qualifying child and have to fall within certain income limitations, and it depends on your filing status. Next slide, please. Who exactly is a qualifying child? So as in previous years, there are a number of requirements that the child must meet in order to qualify. So the only change is that the children or the qualifying child, the ages have expanded. So instead of only 0 to 16, it now covers from 0 to 17. So as long as your child has not turned 18 by the end of 2021, he or she may qualify. So the other requirements remain the same. The child has to relate to you in some way, which is a pretty broad category. That means it could be children, siblings, step and half siblings, certain foster children, or any descendants of them, such as grandchildren or nieces and nephews. The qualifying child must have lived with you for at least 6 months in 2021. The child must have been or must be a US citizen, national or resident, and also have a valid social security number that can be used for employment. The child also must not have provided more than half of their own support during the year. And lastly, the child must not have filed a joint return with their spouse for 2021 or must have filed just to claim a refund of withheld income tax. Next slide, please. So as mentioned before, there are certain income limitations. So the maximum credit is $3,600 or $3,000, depending on the age of the qualifying child. So you are entitled to the full amount if you're a married couple filing jointly and you make under $150,000. If you're head of household, the amount is $112,500, and then everyone else, so single filing status, married filing separately, are entitled to the full amount if their income is under $75,000. And if you make above this threshold, the credit gets reduced by $50 for every additional $1,000 earning. So just to give an example, if you're a married couple making up to $160,000, so that's $10,000 over the income threshold, and you have a child under the age of 6, you will only be able to receive up to $3,100 for that child instead of the full $3,600. Next slide, please. So what happens if you earn too much for the advanced child tax credit? Can you still claim the original child tax credit? The answer is yes. If you do not meet the income requirements, but you still meet the requirements for the original child tax credit of $2,000, you can still claim it. And the income limitations are listed here. So for a married couple is up to $400,000. Individuals, it's up to $200,000, and the qualifying child, it will revert back to the original child tax credit, which is 0 to 16 and not including those who are 17. And again, this is only partially refundable, unlike the advanced child tax credit that you can get the full refund. Next slide, please. So do you need to pay it back? So there may be times where you might have to pay it back, and depends on your financial situation, or if the number of dependents have changed since 2019 or 2020. And because of these changes, the credit might affect your refund. So if your 2021 return shows that there are changes that require you to pay back some of it, the amount you overpaid will be subtracted from your refund. But if the IRS finds the opposite, that you have received less of the credit than that you are entitled to, then your refund will be increased by that amount. There's also a safe harbor provision for low income and moderate income families, and allows them to keep some of their overpayments, even if there are changes in their financial situation or number of qualifying children. So some of the income limitations for the full safe harbor. So for single filers, it's if you make under 40,000, head of household if you make under 50,000, and joint filers, it's if you make under 60,000. So just like the credit itself, the safe harbor phases out above certain amounts. So taxpayers who earn more would have to pay back some of the larger portion of their overpayment. And those who make below these amounts do not need to repay up to $2,000 in overpayments for every incorrectly stated qualifying child. Next slide, please. So I'll just briefly go over how to sign up for the advanced child tax credit. Next slide. The IRS has created a portal in which you can log on online, and the web address is listed here on the slide, and it allows you to view your eligibility and also what to expect and the amount to expect to receive from the advanced child tax credit. And you can also use the same tool to unenroll from the advance payments if you want to receive it in a lump sum for next year's tax return. And for those who have filed for 2019 or 2020, the enrollment should be automatic. The credit, it should be based on either of those returns. So if you didn't file for 2020, the advanced child tax credit should have been calculated based on your 2019 return. Otherwise, it should be based on your 2020 return. There's also a tool online that you can used to determine if you qualify for the advanced child tax credit. Next slide, please. Okay. And if you usually do not file, there is a non-filer sign-up tool. So this is similar to the stimulus check. So if you have already put your information through the IRS website, you should have received the advanced child tax credit since it is the same tool, and the enrollment should be automatic. But if you have not done so, there is the website listed here, and you can use that non-filer to sign up in order to receive the advanced child tax credit. And there are some income limitations that was listed on this slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, so if you do want to sign up using the non-filer, I would just be prepared to have all of the information. So your name, date of birth, social security for you and your spouse, if that's applicable, and for your qualifying children. A reliable mailing address if you want to have a check mailed to you, your email address or your bank account information if you want to have the amount directly deposited into your bank account. I would also make sure that you have a non-expired ID, because sometimes the IRS may require that information, even if it's not a state or a US issue government ID. I would just make sure if you have the time to acquire a non-expired, whether it's from your country's ID or passport or anything. And next slide. So that concludes the presentation for the advanced child tax credit, and I will take any questions. Oh, you're on mute.
We do have some questions. Just give me a second. Okay, so the first question is, will any of my advanced child tax credit payments be reduced if I owe taxes from previous years?
So no, your advanced child tax credit will not be reduced or used to offset any of the debt that you owe for previous years, whether it's for federal or for state government. However, if you do receive a refund for the tax year 2021, so that's next year, any remaining amount in your refund may be subject to offset any debt for the federal or state government that you may owe.
We've got another question here. If I reported that I was the victim of tax-related identity theft, how can I ensure I will receive the tax credit?
So if you reported that you're a victim of tax-related identity theft, the IRS will not disperse the credit until your identity theft issue has been resolved.
If anyone from the audience would like to submit questions, you can also write down on the chat and we can get this answered. We have one more question, and I can check also if we have any questions on Facebook. I don't have a social security number, but I have an ITI and from the IRS. Am I eligible for the child tax credit?
Yes, so you, or if you're marrying filing jointly and your spouse, have to have either a social security number or an ITIN to be eligible for the advanced child tax credit. Only the child needs to have the social security number that is used for employment purposes, but the taxpayer who is claiming a qualifying child can use either social security number or ITIN.
Cool. I think that wraps up our questions. Is there anything else you'd like to cover, Kelly?
Let me see. So sometimes I know another question that people may have is if you're a DACA recipient, if you can qualify for the advanced child tax credit. So having the DACA status does not affect your eligibility. So if you and your child satisfy for all the other eligibility requirements, you can claim the advanced child tax credit. So DACA status does not affect your ability to receive that.
That's a good one. Great. Well, there is, oh, we got a hi on the chat.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. Any other questions that we can take?
Yeah, I know some clients may have more complicated issues and they can always contact us at our intake line. And we can always go over and give some advice and to see if we're able to help.
Yeah, and let me pull up that information right now. So our contact information, our telephone number is 718-487-2300. Our website is www.bka.org. And you can also email us at info@bka.org. We are located in Williamsburg and Bed-Stuy, but our locations are open just by appointment. Well, thank you very much, Kelly, for your presentation today. It was very informative.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, we're gonna end it there. Bye, everyone.
Have a good night.
You too.